Welcome to Empowerment Radio. My name is Dr. Friedemann, and I'm so glad that you decided to join me. Empowerment Radio is about giving you the insights, tools, and solutions to address some of the most challenging aspects of our daily lives. So sit back, relax, and empower yourself. Welcome back to Empowerment Radio. Now, I hope that all those talk about invasive thoughts didn't bring you into some kind of a spiral of thinking those thoughts that you try to avoid. And I also hope that the concept of neutrality and just knowing more about thoughts gives you the power to not take them so seriously. And at the same time, with the letting go process, also learn to easier release them and not make them something that you have to hold on to. Now, does it mean that all thoughts need to be dismissed? Does it mean that no thought really matters and there is no messages from the deeper part of our minds that have any meaning and purpose for us? Well, I don't think so. I think there are certain thoughts that we do need to pay attention to. And that is number 3. Step number 3 is just when you notice that there are thoughts recurring, not recurring because you pull them back with anxiety. Sometimes it's hard to tell, did I pull them back or did they come back? But thoughts that are recurring and thoughts that you really feel like, well, I don't know, I cannot really let them go. They just always knock on my door. You may want to calmly observe them and then interpret them. So the calmly observing basically just means that with that place of neutrality, knowing it's a thought. Your mind doesn't want to harm you. Your mind doesn't want to harm anybody else. Your mind doesn't control you. Your mind just talks to you right now. And it may talk, a different language to you, which you don't really understand. So you want to take notes. Write down some of those themes, just like people write down their dreams. And then they wonder, well, what do those dreams tell us? Well, these may be like daydreams, day nightmares maybe at times, but just take note, write them down, and then ask yourself, what is the feeling behind what I'm seeing or what I'm thinking, not how I interpret it. So I'm not talking about your disgust or your anxiety or your doubt. I'm talking about what the thought has as a feeling. Is there any anger or frustration? Is there disappointment? Is there guilt? Is there any sense of powerlessness or sadness? Is there any sense of confusion? Just notice that. That can give you already a lot of pointers that there is something to pay attention to. And then you can go further and ask yourself, well, what is the belief underneath those thoughts? Is there something that I can actually see as potentially a marker of, well, because of that belief, I have those thoughts, and maybe I have been acting in a certain way before, and those beliefs made me act like this, and now those thoughts point towards something that may be out of balance. Let me explain. Here are a few examples. So I had a client who was doing the knife thing. She was so afraid of harming her husband that she even asked her husband to hide the knives from her. Now, when we talked about what the feeling was behind, she felt she was feeling frustrated and angry. And what was she angry about? What was that feeling? And she said she was frustrated and angry at the circumstances that she is in, that she felt trapped and that she felt somehow she didn't have a voice. So she was also angry at herself. She wanted to change her job, but she was pretty sure that her husband would say no, not even asking him, just making an assumption. And that was going on for several months, almost a year. And it was festering inside of her. And that wanting to lash out, wanting to get the obstacle out of the way, which would be her husband, not with a knife, but simply by getting him either to agree or doing anyhow what she was wanting to do. Once she had that clarity, that whole mental loop of that wanting to stab someone completely disappeared. Another client had the idea of doing harm to himself, and whenever that he heard someone, killing himself, and he immediately thought, "What if I would do this?" And it was stressing him out. It's caused him a lot of anguish. And when we worked on what the feeling was, he said it was anger. And the feeling of anger was pointing back to his friend that he lost after high school, a friend that he was very close to, and out of the blue, that friend had killed himself. And the anger was at the friend. How could he do this? How could he hurt so many people that he left behind? How could he be so selfish? But the anger was also at himself, because he felt that he should have known, he should have seen it coming, and he should have prevented it. And once we were working through this confusion of the mind, these questions, why did I not help him? How could I not see it? How could he do this? When all these questions were answered, that theme that came up over and over again was also resolved, and those thoughts didn't come up. Another one was a client that had thoughts about wanting to get out whenever she was in a situation where, like in the office, she had a meeting. All of a sudden, the thought came up, I want to run out of here. I want to run out of here. I don't want to be in here. And again, what's the feeling? The feeling was feeling trapped, feeling powerless. And when we talked about what happened, she said that she felt that she had no choice in her life. She was in a job that she couldn't leave. She was in a great relationship, but she was sure that's going to end up in a marriage, and she wasn't sure that she wants to get married. She was basically socially only engaged with the friends of her boyfriend and not with her own friends. So what happened was, with this entrapment, that basically a part of her mind felt, I want to just get away of all of this. I want to avoid all of this, and I want to have freedom again. And when we talked about freedom being more than just getting rid of what we have and running away from the current situation, but there is freedom also of choice, the choice of making yourself hurt and asking for what you want and what you need, the choice of taking care of our own needs and creating better boundaries, and the choice of also to really be fully engaged and making situations better or enjoying situations more and feeling overall more empowered. Again, those thoughts of wanting to get away, running away, simply disappeared. Now, I have to admit, I had these thoughts. I remember in my residency, after a 36-hour shift, I had this crazy thought when I was walking down the hallway in the basement to the parking garage, that I want to be a mouse that is hiding out in a little hole in the wall and just want to get away from it. And I knew that this thought had to do with my complete exhaustion and sometimes feeling overwhelmed by all that stress and pressure. So it's obviously not a thought, being 6'4", that I could really act upon, but it was something that I also felt my mind metaphorically just told me, you are putting too much on yourself. You're trying too hard. You are not giving yourself enough of a break. So there are other themes that, we talked about before, the theme of, having cancer, or, not, or wondering if this little mole on your skin going to kill you. And these are often themes about not feeling connected to yourself. I found it very interesting that a lot of people that have those invasive thoughts of an illness admittedly say that they have not paid attention to themselves until they had those thoughts, making them force pay attention to themselves. It's almost like they were so just, into their career or relationships or whatever goals they externally had, that they didn't really take care of themselves, even though they thought, well, I'm eating well, I'm going to the gym, but they were always in their head. They didn't really feel connected to their body. And so that disconnection of the body can also something be that those thoughts may try to tell you, come back and reconnect to me. Or another thought that some clients had was about, did something bad happen in my childhood? Did maybe one of my family members molest me? And they can completely get unglued by this thought because all of a sudden they're looking at their family with complete distrust. And whatever they remember of their childhood doesn't seem real anymore. And I can only say from a few clients that I worked with on those thoughts, what they realized is that they did have a confusion about the childhood. And I'm not saying that if those thoughts come up, this may not really mean that there was something in the subconscious is bringing it up. I mean, there are many cases where people do have later in life when the subconscious feels like, okay, now you're ready to deal with what happened there, brings it up to the surface. But sometimes it can be also, again, the metaphorical sense of feeling that there is something unresolved. And in those clients that I worked with, it was that they felt, on the one hand, that they didn't really get their needs met. It was on surface all nice and good, and it was really like the happy family on paper, but somehow they felt that they were not really seen and respected or accepted for who they are. And so they had a inner conflict between feeling like they are dissatisfied and now they want to move on, but on the other hand they also felt like, I cannot really let go as something is still wanting me to stay attached and resolve it. And those thoughts again can just give you information that there is an area in your life, there is some theme going on there that needs to be paid attention to. And those thoughts are the thoughts usually that are coming up over and over again, not because you pull them in, but because they're just showing up. And they are thoughts that deserve to just be, yeah, observed, a little bit analyzed, and really understood, not as something threatening, but as something that can eventually help you to get a better relationship with yourself, with others, be more empowered, be more in balance. Or when it comes to those thoughts that are reoccurring because they are releasing a trauma, they may tell you it's time to go and see someone so that you can really talk about and work through whatever this, let's say, PTSD is still affecting you within your life. So now you have the being more the observer and interpreting without anxiety what's really going on. Now, how do you respond to them? What's the next step? What action step can we take to really heal whatever has been knocking at your door? We'll talk about this more